Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for attending Anza Electric Cooperative's 2020 Virtual Wildfire Mitigation Plan meeting. As I'm sure most of you are aware, our General Manager is Kevin Short, and your speakers for this presentation are Operations Manager Brian Bahari, and my name is Jennifer Williams, Government Relations Liaison. AEC's policy statement as it pertains to our wildfire mitigation efforts is as follows. Anza Electric Cooperative exists to provide safe, affordable, and reliable utility service. AEC takes the safety of staff and the membership seriously. The cooperative has developed this wildfire mitigation plan in compliance with state law to identify potential risks within our system, prevention methods, and to ensure the safety of our staff and our membership. Following several years of drought conditions and strong Santa Ana wind events, the risk of wildfire caused by utility assets has increased significantly. As evidenced in this wildfire mitigation plan, AEC has a company-wide focus on addressing and minimizing wildfire-related risks to the health, safety, and welfare of our membership. AEC is committed to fire prevention, safety, mitigation, control, and recovery, and has taken a leadership role in addressing the threat of a fire ignited with utility assets and facilities within our service territory. To enhance the capabilities of our membership and local communities defend against a wildfire event, AEC will share our personnel, resources, and information to effectively communicate all relative material. In the interest of time, we will move through this presentation rather quickly. Our wildfire mitigation plan and the report from our independent evaluator is available on our website. If you have any additional questions or comments, contact information is provided at the end of this presentation. The next few slides provide statistical background related to wildfire events. AEC tracks and records all known fires within our service territory. In 2019, AEC tracked a total of 29 fire events. All of the data provided on these slides can be easily accessed on the CAL FIRE website. We will provide a general overview of the elements of our wildfire mitigation plan during this presentation that will include everything that is outlined on this slide. Again, contact information is provided at the end of this presentation if you have any questions or comments. The AEC Wildfire Mitigation Plan is founded upon the goal of minimizing the probability that the various components of our distribution system might become the original or contributing source of ignition for a fire. AEC gathers and analyzes data from the National Weather Service and weather stations strategically deployed throughout our system to determine where and when the threat of a wildfire will present itself, which in turn facilitates the immediate organization and implementation of AEC's response appropriate to the threat. Additionally, AEC continues to evaluate prudent, cost-effective changes and improvements to its physical assets that could and should be made to meet this objective, and is implementing preventive operations, construction, and maintenance plans consistent with these evaluations. We will discuss resiliency on the next slide. The final goal for this wildfire mitigation plan is to measure the effectiveness of specific wildfire mitigation strategies. Where a particular action, program, or protocol is determined to be unnecessary or ineffective, AEC will assess whether a modification or replacement is merited. This plan will also help determine if more cost-effective measures would produce the same or better results.
In order to increase resiliency on the Anza electrical distribution system, we are implementing the following measures. One is to increase the design and construction standards we are currently using. Two is to implement our wood to ductile iron program, in which all new construction uses ductile iron poles, which are impervious to fires, rather than wood poles. Three is upgrading our reclosers, which are circuit breakers on our system, to automated computerized reclosers, which are much more sensitive to detecting broken conductors and faults. Fourth, we have currently installed 5 weather monitoring stations throughout our territory to give us real-time weather conditions and let us know when humidity is low and winds are increasing. 5, we are currently working with researchers on testing emerging technologies to detect faults and other broken conductors. And finally, we have increased our facilities inspection cycle to detect problem poles more quickly and have them replaced.
AEC's Wildfire Mitigation Plan is subject to the direct supervision of the General Manager and delegated to senior management as follows. The Operations Manager is responsible for the evaluation of the high fire threat district boundaries, inspections of overhead distribution facilities, and remediation of deficiencies in the high fire threat district, quality, oversight and control, system hardening, vegetation management, developing protocols for public safety power shutoffs, and researching alternative technologies. The Government Relations Liaison is responsible for providing notification of public safety power shutoffs and the potential for an event to appropriate government agencies, including the Riverside County Emergency Management Department, or EMD, all local, state, and federal elected representatives' offices, and local tribes, provide emergency preparedness education and engagement with AEC members in coordination with EMD and other appropriate resources. The Office Services Manager is responsible for complete and accurate accounting practices for all cooperative operations, including financial risk analysis pertaining to wildfire mitigation efforts, purchasing of equipment, and setting budgets. The Member Services Manager is responsible for providing communications to AEC's membership via social media and member messaging pertaining to current or forecasted weather warnings provided by the National Weather Service, the potential risk of a wildfire as it is related to weather conditions, public safety power shutoff, potential and planned events, outage information and updates, and emergencies. Telecommunications is responsible for ensuring that all internal methods of communication remain functional and operational at all times, and Connect ANZA broadband and VoIP services are functioning and operational for all members who are connected. All cooperative employees are responsible for contributing to and performing the activities described in this wildfire mitigation plan, including conduct work in a manner that will minimize potential fire dangers, take all reasonable and practical actions to prevent and suppress fires resulting from AEC electric facilities, coordinate with federal, state, and local fire management personnel to ensure that appropriate preventative measures are in place, immediately report fires pursuant to specific procedures, take corrective action when observing or having been notified that fire protection measures have not been properly installed or maintained, ensure compliance with relevant federal, state, and industry standard requirements, ensure that wildfire data is appropriately collected, maintain adequate training programs for all relevant employees, and finally, the governing board of directors for the cooperative must review and approve the wildfire mitigation plan on an annual basis. AEC service territory is in a rural unincorporated area of Riverside County. All services depend on a well for water. Most residential and commercial services have their own well on their property. However, there are several small water districts that service a fraction of residential and commercial services. In the event of a prolonged outage due to a fire or disaster, AEC will coordinate with these water districts and the Riverside County Emergency Management Department to provide generators for backup power if needed and available. ANZA Electric has the authority to initiate a PSPS event under California Public Utilities Code, Chapter 6, Section 8387. To date, the cooperative has not initiated a PSPS event. However, if it becomes necessary, a case-by-case decision to shut off power will be based on the following considerations: red flag warnings issued by the National Weather Service, staff assessments on local conditions, real-time information from staff located in the field, input from local fire experts and vegetation experts. Input from local and state fire authorities regarding the potential consequences of a wildfire in select locations, alternative ways to reroute power, awareness of any evacuation orders in place, expected impact on essential services, other operational considerations to minimize potential wildfire ignitions, ongoing fire activity throughout our service territory, ability to notify customers, notifications to local governments and public officials, and potential impacts to our members. If and when conditions are conducive for potential high fire risk, staff will make every attempt to notify members and critical infrastructure agencies, tribes, local elected representatives, and our life support members as outlined on the next 3 slides. As previously discussed, ANZA Electric has not initiated a PSPS event as of the date of this recording. If conditions are warranted and a PSPS event is initiated, staff will ensure notification is provided as outlined in this slide. Due to the nature of our relationship with Southern California Edison, if conditions warrant the need for the de-energization of the line that feeds our service territory, it could result in a system-wide outage. Again, staff will ensure that notification is provided to our members in a timely manner as information is provided from Edison. There may be situations which prevent the cooperative from providing advance notification of a PSPS event. The onset of extreme weather conditions and other circumstances beyond our control may impact coordination and notification efforts. As detailed in the previous slides, the cooperative plans to begin notifying members approximately 48 hours in advance of a potential PSPS event and will attempt to notify members approximately 24 hours prior to power being shut off. Additional notifications will be made throughout the outage. For example, when power has been shut off and when it has been restored, and any updates that are received and available throughout the outage. Notifications may occur via direct phone calls to our members on our life support list, member messaging, our website, and social media. ANZA Electric recognizes impacts associated with system-wide outages. Therefore, before de-energizing, staff looks at other operational restrictions and considerations that can be put in place to minimize potential wildfire ignitions. De-energization only occurs when it is deemed necessary as a last resort in order to protect public safety.
Within ANZA Electric's service territory and the surrounding areas, the primary risk drivers for wildfire are the following: extended drought, vegetation type, high winds, steep terrain, and lack of early fall rains. Because of the known wildfire risk and the potential impacts on utility operations, AEC will take a multitude of steps to adapt to our changing climate conditions across our service territory. These steps have been described in depth in this plan and include the identification of locations at greatest risk for fire growth within the service territory and instituted a process to make the electric system more resilient to wildfires that includes replacing wooden poles with ductile iron poles, installing new technologies to make the electric grid more resilient to fire, and building upon a robust vegetation management program to keep trees and brush clear of our power lines. The map you see on this slide delineates different fire threat zones, or FTZs, and is adapted from the CAL FIRE risk map for the state of California. The areas with orange hatched represent fire threat level 2. The areas hatched in red represent fire threat zone level 3, which is the highest level of fire danger. AEC utilizes weather databases that are constantly updated using weather data provided by a number of sources, including the United States National Weather Service and AEC's weather monitoring stations. To date, AEC has installed weather monitoring stations at 5 strategic locations in the High Fire Threat District 2 and District 3, and will actively deploy more as they are needed. Further improve our situational awareness, AEC is researching adding high visibility, high resolution cameras that will be controlled remotely and can rotate up to 360 degrees. AEC has also developed 4 operating conditions based on weather data as follows. Normal conditions. This condition is declared when it has been determined that weather conditions are not conducive for wildfires within AEC service territory. Fire danger level is low. When fire danger is low, it means that fuels do not ignite easily from small embers, but a more intense heat source, such as lightning, may start a fire in duff or dry, rotten wood. Fires in open, dry grasslands may burn easily a few hours after a rain, but most wood fires will spread slowly, creeping or smoldering. Control of fires is generally easy. 2. Elevated condition. This condition is declared when it has been determined that weather conditions have become conducive for wildfires within the AEC service territory. Fire danger level is moderate. When the fire danger level is moderate, it means that fires can start from most accidental causes, but the number of fire starts is usually low. If a fire does start in an open, dry grassland, it will burn and spread quickly on windy days. Most wood fires will spread slowly to moderately. Average fire intensity will be moderate except in heavy concentrations of fuel, which may burn hot. Fires are still not likely to become serious and are often easy to control. Third is extreme conditions. This condition is declared when it has been determined that a combination of high winds, low relative humidity, and the burn environment will create critical fire weather conditions. Fire danger level is high. When the fire danger is high, fires can start easily from most causes, and small fuels, such as grasses and needles, will ignite readily. Unattended campfires and brush fires are likely to escape. Fires will spread easily, with some areas of high intensity burning on slopes or concentrated fuels. Fires can become serious and difficult to control unless they are put out while they are still small. And finally, the fourth condition is called the red flag warning or RFW condition. Red flag warning condition is declared by the National Weather Service when high winds and low relative humidity are forecast to occur for an extended period of time. Depending on the condition reported, various operational changes and rules appropriate to each condition will be triggered and implemented. Fire danger level is considered very high. When the fire danger is very high, fires will start easily from most causes. The fires will spread rapidly and have a quick increase in intensity right after ignition. Small fires can quickly become large fires and exhibit extreme fire intensity, such as long-distance spotting and fire whirls. These fires can be difficult to control and will often become much larger and longer-lasting fires. Also, to reduce the risk of wildfires on our distribution system, ANZA Electric has a comprehensive tree and vegetation clearing program to ensure trees and brush do not come into contact with power lines. The entire distribution system is patrolled and cleared annually. ANZA Electric meets or exceeds the minimum inspection requirements provided in the California Public Utility Commission's General Order 165 and General Order 95, Rule 18. Pursuant to these rules, ANZA Electric inspects electric facilities as follows. First, patrol inspections. These are simple visual inspections of all applicable utility equipment and structures. It is designed to identify obvious structural problems and hazards. Patrol inspections are carried out in the course of other ANZA Electric business, and all poles are visually inspected annually at minimum on our distribution system. Detailed inspections are done where individual pieces of equipment and structures are carefully examined visually and through use of routine diagnostic tests as appropriate, and if practical. Opened and the condition of each rated and recorded. Detailed inspections are performed throughout the system on a rotating cycle every 3 years. In areas that are in Fire Threat Zone 3 and certain areas of Fire Threat Zone 2 that are deemed to be of greater risk, detailed inspections may occur more frequently. Third and final are intrusive inspections, which involve more sophisticated diagnostic tools beyond visual inspection or instrument reading, are conducted every 5 years on all wood poles. In areas of the system in Fire Threat Zone 3 and higher risk areas of Fire Threat Zone 2, intrusive inspections may occur more frequently depending on the age of the pole. Workforce training. ANZA Electric believes that an important line of defense against the ignition of fires is a well-trained and alert workforce. ANZA Electric has created a culture of fire prevention. Management has taken a proactive role in ensuring that all employees are aware of fire threat weather conditions and requires that all employees immediately report and document any suspicious activities witnessed in the field. Immediately report and document knowledge of any fires within ANZA Electric service territory and are required to document all known information related to any fire within the ANZA Electric service territory regardless of the cause. Reclosure Policy. A reclosure is a type of high voltage circuit breaker on AEC's distribution lines. Normal operation allows the circuit to close up to 4 times if a fault is detected. During fire season, AEC places reclosures on what's called one-shot, which does not allow them to close if a fault is detected, greatly reducing the chance of a spark or fire ignition. AEC currently has a 4-year work plan to upgrade all distribution reclosures to more sensitive solid-state computerized units that give greater control and flexibility in detecting faults and reducing risk of spark or fire. AEC has created a multi-level approach to community education and outreach as our contribution to public awareness of fire threats, fire prevention, and emergency preparedness. The key elements of this approach are detailed on this slide. Fire safety communication. AEC provides a regular communication to residents and businesses located within our service territory. These fire safety and emergency communications include, but are not limited to, those listed on this slide. Restoration of service. Once the extreme fire threat conditions subside and it is safe to do so, AEC crews will begin patrolling power lines, repairing damage if it occurs, and restoring power to impacted members. AEC will provide condition updates and reasonable notices for the restoration of power. Evaluating the fire mitigation plan. Metric 1, fire ignitions. At the end of emergency events, AEC conducts a debrief and prepares an after-action report that identifies action items to correct or improve future responses. AEC will invoke the actions in its ERP or emergency response plan as outlined. For the purposes of this metric, a fire ignition is defined as follows. AEC facility was associated with a fire. The fire was self-propagating and of a material other than electrical and/or communication facilities. The resulting fire traveled greater than 1 linear meter from the ignition point, and AEC has knowledge that the fire occurred. In future wildfire mitigation plans, AEC will provide the number of fires that occurred that were less than 10 acres in size. Any fires greater than 10 acres will be individually described. Metric 2, wires down. The second metric is the number of distribution and transmission wires downed within AEC's service territory. For purposes of this metric, a wire down event includes any instance where an electric transmission or primary distribution conductor falls to the ground or onto a foreign object. AEC will provide the wires down metric between wires down inside and outside of the high fire threat zones. AEC will not normalize this metric by excluding unusual events such as severe storms. Instead, AEC will supplement this metric with a qualitative description of any such unusual events. So what are the impacts of metrics on the plan? The primary purpose of these metrics is to provide longer-term feedback on the efficiency of AEC's fire prevention strategies and programs focused on electric facilities. AEC notes that similar metrics are used for other purposes, e.g. wires down is used in monitoring electric reliability. In other cases, this metric is monitorized with exclusions in order to normalize unusual events such as extreme weather. For fire purposes, AEC assumes that such metrics should include rather than exclude such events and intends to monitor all wires down for fire prevention purposes rather than only wires down during normal weather. Monitoring and auditing the plan. This wildfire mitigation plan is subject to review by AEC's governing board. AEC will present this plan to its governing board on an annual basis. Additionally, a qualified independent evaluator will present a report on this plan to the AEC governing board. Identifying and correcting deficiencies in the wildfire mitigation plan. Despite all the efforts AEC might take in designing, redesigning, and improving, replacing, and fire hardening various elements of its overhead electric system, there will be some remaining potential risk that AEC's facilities might be the source of ignition for a fire. To address these risks, AEC has designed and implemented a number of operations, maintenance, and inspection programs directly addressing fire prevention and the mitigation of effects from fires. Monitoring the effectiveness of this plan. AEC routinely coordinates and monitors the effectiveness of inspections with operations staff, our vegetation and tree trimming contractors, and any company that AEC has contracted with for pole inspections to ensure that all system inspections are completed in a timely manner and meet or exceed the requirements established by law. Any deficiencies identified through this process are addressed prior to the start of each fire season for the next year.
Public Utilities Code Section 8387C requires ANZA Electric to contract with a qualified independent evaluator with experience in assessing the safe operation of electrical infrastructure to review and assess the comprehensiveness of this wildfire mitigation plan. In 2020, the cooperative contracted with Chiletta to conduct an independent evaluation of our wildfire mitigation plan. Chiletta presented a report to the cooperative's board of directors at the June 25th regular board meeting. Their report concluded that the cooperative has developed a comprehensive wildfire mitigation plan as required by law. So there's been a lot of information that has been reviewed during this presentation. So if you would like to review our wildfire mitigation plan or the results of our independent evaluation, they can be found on the cooperative's website at anzaelectric.org. If you have any questions or would like to comment on our plan or this presentation, please submit an email to aec@anzaelectric.org. If you would like to view some information about Southern California Edison's wildfire mitigation plan, the link is provided for you below. Again, on behalf of all cooperative staff, I just want to say thank you for participating in this wildfire mitigation plan meeting. I know things haven't been ideal. We would have loved to meet with you all in person, but it is what it is. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to hear from you soon.